The topic of the webinar is 5 ways to extend the life of your anti-fatigue mats. My name is Russell Herbert, account manager here at AcroMat, and it's going to be a great session to run through these 5 points, give you some tips and takeaways that you can build into your own programs. Obviously, there's a lot of different ranges as far as life expectancies and things like that goes when it comes to anti-fatigue mats, but I'm sure regardless of that, everyone's in the same boat. They're looking to get more life out of the mats they have now. And this is going to be some insights that you can use to help with that exact question. So with that, we're going to jump into the slides leading up to today's webinar. We did poll over 70 of our registrants. And so before we dive into the actual steps, we wanted to share those poll results to give a bit of helpful context as we move through today's presentation. We will circle back with these insights as we move forward and also share the results as well so that you've got them in case you want to kind of dissect them and dig into them a little further. The first question we asked was, how long do you expect your anti-fatigue mats to last? As I mentioned, everyone's got different levels of expectations. And so that first question was around that. 68% of you said you expect your mats to last 2 years or less. And then there's quite a few getting into that 2 to 3 year range and beyond. And then we followed that question with, do your anti-fatigue mats usually last the expected or promoted lifespan? So what you'll see here is a large majority of you are not getting the life out of the mats that you're expecting. So there's a bit of a disconnect between how long you're expecting them to last and then the actual result that's happening with those mats. So hopefully what today we'll do is kind of bring that together a little bit and align the expectation with the actual outcome. And so you're getting the life that you're expecting out of the mats for each different scenario. The third question we asked was, do you have a budget specifically for anti-fatigue mats? And you'll see there 55% said no, 16% said yes, and 29% were unsure. We followed that one up with the fourth question, which was around cleaning. How often do you clean your anti-fatigue mats? A lot of people don't really have a regular cadence, as you can see, and some going up to the yearly answer there as well. So different levels of cleaning happening as well, including quite a few that just don't really have a schedule for that. So we'll dive into some of this as we go, just some questions to keep in mind as a bit of background. The last question is not exactly related to today's topic, but as MSDs are currently affecting about 25% of the population, and a third of all reported MSD cases are with workers under 35, ergonomic issues obviously very prominent and a big topic. So we're going to be talking more about that in the days ahead and hopefully hearing from some experts on this topic as well. So one question or one note, I guess, that we'd like to share with you guys is that if you are part of this 39% that says you do have a formal effort in place to proactively prevent MSDs, and you're interested in sharing that effort, we'd love to hear about it. We'd love to learn more about what you're doing to make that successful, possibly even have you join on a upcoming webinar as well. So on to the 5 steps. Step number 1 seems like a super obvious one, but one of the most common questions we get is around cleaning. How should we clean them? Can we clean them? What should we do? How often? All kinds of things like that. And the answer is yes, you certainly should and can clean anti-fatigue mats. It comes back a little bit to the type of material that they're made from. So you want to be aware as to that and what the cleaning procedures are that's recommended by the manufacturer of that material. A lot of our mats, obviously the 101 series line, are all made from pure 100% nitrile, chemical resistant, impervious to moisture, things like that. So they super great option if you're wanting to clean regularly. In fact, a lot of these mats go into a food industry environment where they're getting sanitized on a daily basis. So it gives you a little clue as to how they hold up in that type of a cleaning environment. You can bring that all the way down to pressure washing. You can hose them off, you can mop them, you can scrub them. I've even heard people running like a auto scrubber across the mats. So a lot of different options when it comes to cleaning, but definitely one of the ways to really extend the life is to make sure they clean. And reason behind that, obviously, if there's a lot of buildup, especially if you have machine waste or maybe some fasteners or fixings spilling into the area, those can just speed up the deterioration of the mat, so it's going to wear out a lot quicker. So keeping it clean, free from debris, keeping it in good shape is an important first step. A key tip here, we like to recommend using microfiber cleaning materials because that doesn't leave any lint behind. If you're using a mop or something like that, a microfiber mop is a great way to go. Doesn't leave any lint behind as well. And then just a little story on the picture on the screen here. The one on the right, what you'll see here. So this example was a client who had our mats for a little over a year, and they asked us to come back, and they were concerned that they were worn out to the point they needed to be replaced. So I went to visit this client, and on the way in, I actually found a box of Clorox wipes there on the counter. So I grabbed one of those. We went and looked at the mat, and that was just a couple of wipes with a Clorox wipe. So you can really see it pop that life right back to the mat. It looked back, if I had kept going, it would be right back to its original state. So it does matter about cleaning, especially if you're in a dusty, dirty environment. You do want to make sure that you're keeping on top of that. It's one of the first and most effective ways to help ensure that you're getting the expected lifespan out of your mats. Step number 2, this one's again something we've talked about if you've been on our webinars before, but we believe thoroughly in this concept of repairing your mats early. If there's a divot, rip, tear, something goes wrong, layouts change, make sure you're on top of that. If a mat gets damaged, it can often be repaired if you get to it quickly. If you leave it, that damage could get to a point where you've got to replace the whole mat because it's irreparable. So you want to just be on top of this one. Obviously, damage to a mat creates some sort of safety hazard, so you want to also keep that in mind as well, that you're not only are you extending the life of the mat, but you're eliminating potential injury. Slips, trips, and falls, still number 1 cause of injury in the workplace. And just make sure you're cognizant of whether the mats you have now are able to be repaired and restored. Some of them can be, some of them can't be. You may be familiar with modular tiles where you can replace a section. The 101 series, like you see on the screen here, super versatile if you do have a layout change, and this is a great example of that. This facility had a 101 mat in for about 18 months, and then their layout changed, their process changed, and so it meant that the worker was going to be standing on exposed concrete, as you can see from the outline. So we actually were able to bring that mat back into our production, adjust it using the material that they already had been using, add a new yellow border, and then redeploy that mat. So it, again, extending the life is what we're talking about here. It's a great example of how you can do that. If your facility doesn't have maybe the downtime to actually send the mat back to us to do the repairs here, we have the repair kit. You can actually do that on site as well, and that saves a lot of downtime, not having to have the mat out of the work area. So good examples of how you can do that. Simple process, remeasure the area, send us the new dimensions, or else send the mat back with the new dimensions, either way. And then that mat will either be reconfigured here or on your property as well. So the next slide has a video example of how this works. Mat repair is really simple process, but it can save you from having to buy a brand new mat, especially, as I said, if you catch it early. That's really important here. So something that you can do on site. The example in the picture here was one where actually when they were laying the mat out, when they first got it, got a little bit carried away and were actually put a tear in it as they were laying the mat out. So with that one, we're able to come in and make a repair on site super quick. So this video is going to show you a time lapse, kind of a quick before and after of how this process looks like, how you can make that seamless repair. The total time for me to actually do this was about 20 minutes. This is just a short time lapse to show you kind of how that looks. see the before and after of a damaged mat being repaired to its original state. And that full video is available on our YouTube channel. If you want to watch the whole process step by step, you can see it there. And just want to emphasize this point on the repair, that early is the key. In our poll, we asked about steps you take when divots and tears happen. There was a handful of responses about trying to cover the hole or even just stepping around it. And that's not really good enough. What we want is to make sure that we're capturing this early. Don't wait till the damage could be irreparable. Make sure you get to it early, get it repaired, and then that really can extend the life of the mat to something much greater than if you leave the issue. That leads us on to our next step, which is to conduct regular inspections. And if you've been on our series before, you know we talk about this a lot as well. And regular inspections, they catch these issues before they become a costly problem. They save money, they elevate health and safety, and it allows you to act strategically instead of reactively. So if you've ever had the experience of a big issue coming up with your anti-fatigue mats and all of a sudden you've got a really costly problem that you've got to solve, well, by conducting regular inspections, you can get ahead of that, build it into a sequence, into a schedule, so you know exactly what's coming instead of those reactive, expensive situations. And also, it's a simple way to show your employees that you value, you place a value on their health, and it's important to you as a safety leader or a supervisor. It's important to you that your people are going to go home as safe as when they came. And these regular inspections are just a way to demonstrate that to your employees. We obviously have the mat inspection checklist, which is available on our website. We can share that with you as well. Feel free to download that and use it. It's a way to document the state of every different mat in your facility. A couple of suggestions I wanted to share on this point here. You could dedicate this role to somebody, a team member, somebody that wants to get involved. Maybe just give them an hour a week and let them do the inspections and report back to you with what they find. Could be even a rotating role where you've got somebody doing it, a different person every month is taking it on. So some ideas to make it fun and make it happen. Obviously, it's as simple as just walking the floor, making the notes. And like I said, this inspection checklist is available for you to use. You can build it into your own program if you like. And of course, we also offer help with this if you ever need us to come on site to conduct any of these inspections for you. On the screen here, I'm going to show you a quick video as well of a walkthrough that we recently did at a window and door manufacturing facility, just to give you an idea of, as you're walking through, what to look out for and how easy it is to document that. So as we walk through on this video, you'll see a number of these safety incidents or concerns popping up as we go through. And it's as simple as that to make those notes on the inspection checklist. So there we go. As you can see, starting to identify some hazards now that you can mark down on your sheet. Take some pictures like this and you can include those with your report as well. Operator feedback, always very important. Make sure you're talking to the operators as you're doing these. They can often share with you things that you didn't pick up yourself. So. That gives you a little insight as to how you can conduct some sort of an inspection similar to this. Reactive decision making is usually results in the wrong mat being procured, wrong shape, wrong size, wrong material, and money being spent where it doesn't need to be. So this is a great way to get ahead of that. Another simple step that we can't stress enough is to develop a mat budget. Without a budget, you end up with, as we've said, reactive spending. You get the wrong mats. Safety is at risk. And if you've ever had those frantic product searches, just trying to find something in a pinch because somebody needs something, somebody got hurt, and you're desperately trying to solve this problem, but you don't have the time to actually commit to it. You've probably experienced something along those lines, so know what I'm talking about there. With a budget, you can reduce your spending. You can get the right mats. There's no gaps in your safety program, and you can get year-over-year cost savings. So I think this is something very crucial as we talk about extending the life, because without the budget, you're likely going to end up with the wrong mats being brought in, and you're going to end up being disappointed with their life expectancy. So we've seen this countless times, and firm believer in putting it into a budget, whatever that budget looks like and is going to be going forward. That's what's right for your company, but at least you have it in place. So just a quick story before we move on to the next slide. We recently had a client reach out to us from one of the big hotel chains, and he was looking for a mat at one of their bars at one of their hotels. And he shared with me that up until finding AcroMat, he had spent about $2,500 trying to fix this problem of a mat that was going to fit in their bar area, and none of it had worked out. So there's just a lot of wasted money being spent trying to solve a problem. If you get ahead of the program, get ahead of it with a budget, you've done your research, you know what kind of a mat is going to be right for your area, you can save a lot of that cost. So this is not something that's unique to just one company. This is something we've heard over and over again, that a lot of money has been spent trying to solve a problem and it hasn't worked out. So a budget can really help make sure that that gets controlled. And step number 5, one of my favorites, as you would be well aware, standardize. Of course, standardize. Why standardize? Well, it just makes sense. That's all. It's a super easy process. We polled on one of our last webinars, we polled our audience, and only 13% said they have a standard work instruction. So kudos to those 13%. For the rest of you, let's help get this sorted out so that you have a standard to work to. There was about 80% of those same people said they do have a standard on other PPE and safety items. So it might be gloves, it might be safety glasses, hard hats, steel toe shoes, whatever it might be. You've got a standard in place for that, but you're missing one on the mats. So it's really easy. You can apply what you've learned and how you rolled out standards on your other items to a standard on your anti-fatigue mats. And it's something we can help with. We got templates. In fact, we had a whole series on it on one of our webinars, if you'd like to review that. And we can come in and help with this process as well. What it does is it reduces any of this mix and match idea. It reduces complexity. It speeds up the procurement process. It makes it really easy for your people as they transition, to new roles and new people come in, things like that. There's a standard to work to, and you can be sure you're going to get that consistent result across everywhere where standing work is performed. Further on this point of standardizing, really as simple as I've said, is unifying that strategy and its consistency. It eliminates confusion, and it's one of the principles of 5S, which we're getting more and more used to. We hear that a lot. Your employees hear it. It's something that we're used to in today's manufacturing environments, and so we can just build on that and elevate the safety when it comes to anti-fatigue mats by having that standard. And what I'd like to share with you here as well, back to the beginning, we had that gap between how long your mats are actually lasting and what your expectations are. a anti-fatigue mat standard is one of the best ways to close that gap. So you don't have the problem of, I thought it was going to last 3 years, it only lasted 6 months. Because you've done your homework, you've got it written into a standard, and you know what kind of mats are going to be brought in from here on out. There's also this webinar playback is also available on our YouTube channel as well, as I mentioned, so feel free to recap on that. And if you have any questions on it, feel free to reach out. We're here to help. And on the subject of questions, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but we will be doing a Q&A at the end, so feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box, and once we get through the last couple of slides, we'll jump into that piece as well. Just a quick summary from today's session. 5 simple steps to help extend the life of your mats and help align your expectation with what's actually happening. Number 1, clean your mats regularly. Make sure you're doing that. You build a cadence, make sure somebody's accountable for it. Make sure you know what that process looks like and you've checked with the manufacturer of the material so that you know the right cleaning methods to use. Repair your mats early if that can be done. Make sure you're on top of any issues coming up. You can do that through step number 3, conducting regular inspections. Make sure you're aware of the state of your mats and you're inspecting them on a regular basis to catch any of these issues early. Number 4, develop a mat budget. Make sure you've got some funds available each month, each quarter, whatever that looks like for you, that you can use to replace the mat. So when you get a need for a new mat, you have the funds available for procuring the right type of mat for your environment. And number 5, standardize. Make sure that you build some sort of a standard so everyone at your organization knows exactly what the right kind of mat is to use in their work environments. Makes it simple, makes it easy, and it extends the life of your mats. Bonus point as well, keep heavy equipment off your mats. It's surprising how many times people ask if they can drive forklifts over them. Please don't. It's just not, powered equipment and mats don't go together very well. Can it be done? Sure, it can be done. Can you get away with it? Maybe sometimes, but it's not going to help with this topic of extending the life of your mats. Think about if you can redesign that mat so that it isn't in the way of forklift traffic, or could it be moved out the way if a forklift does have to come through, things like that. Just make sure you're on top of that one as well. And also with the point of heavy equipment, if you leave carts or tables or anything like that setting on the mat, just be mindful that that could damage them as well. So those are a few bonus points as well. With that, we're going to move on to our Q&A. So looks like there's some questions coming in already, so thank you for that. If there's any other questions that we haven't addressed that you have, please feel free to put them into the Q&A. We'll get to those here in a few minutes. I shared earlier, but we're available whenever you need site visits, safety inspections, mat measurements, designs, whatever it might be, and we can help with that standardization process. We obviously make and sell mats, and that's what we do, but we also want to be your partners before, after, and in between every transaction as well. It's about working together to get the lifespan that you're expecting out of your mats. Make sure your employees are able to go home just as safe as when they arrived. So with that, we're gonna switch over to the Q&A here. All right, so first question up, we have from Kale, what kind of cleaners are recommended to use to clean the mats for general debris and grease oil residue? Obviously, there's a whole host of different types of cleaners available, Kale, on the market. And depending on what you have available at your facility, any type of regular degreaser would be fine to use on the 101 series mats. There is a cleaning guide available on our website that gives some general guidelines. We're not really able to narrow it down to brands and names of cleaners just because there's so many available on the market, and most companies have a particular vendor that they use. So any kind of regular general purpose degreaser is fine to use for cleaning grease and oil. If it's a something to use on a water safe surface, should be no problem at all on using on these mats. Let's see, next question here from Adam. Thank you, Adam. Says used AcroMat for years, strongest, longest lasting mats we've ever had. Thank you for that, Adam. And that fits in right well with our topic today. If one does need to be replaced, is there a way to capture the recycling activities? Our company has a large sustainability recycling initiative and policy and would like to know if you can recycle any mats you receive, or should the customer try to recycle them on their own? Great question, Adam. One we've had a few times. And typically, once an anti-fatigue mat is at the end of its life, there's nothing really we can do with recycling that from a content perspective, just because of all the contaminants that may be in there, maybe oils, maybe machine waste, things like that. So not something we can recycle here, but what we recommend is to reach out to your own recycling agency in your area, because they differ by region, and see what they would have as options for recycling that type of thing at your own kind of local level. That's our best recommendation for that. So, and then another point from Adam here, he says for carts and their wheels, this is where using AcroMat's sketch feature will help. Absolutely, well said. We recommend making some cutouts, avoiding having that interaction, especially, as I said, if it's a powered vehicle, you don't want to have that interaction between that and the mat. So you can usually design a custom shape that's going to eliminate that need for those two things coming in contact with each other. There's a question also from John here. John's asking, how do we tell if a mat can be repaired or if we need to buy a new one? And that's another great question, because as I said, it's all about getting in there early. Just a couple of pointers on that. If it's a small tear in a mat, repairing it is obviously going to be your best bet. If the thing is, if 90% of it is damaged, you're probably not going to really gain a whole lot by trying to repair and keep that 10%. So it depends a little bit on the size of and scope of the damage. And then also go back to the life expectancy. So if this mat was gonna, if you were expecting it to last 3 years and you're 2.5 years into it, and there's a big repair that needs to be made, it might not be worth trying to extend that, get that extra 6 months out of it. It might be worth just replacing the whole thing. So a couple of the pointers is the size of the repair that needs to be made in relation to the mat itself, and then the life expectancy, how long has it already been in use up until this point. So if it's beyond its warranty period and you're needing to make a repair, it may not be worth, depending on the size of it, it may not be worth actually doing that. It may be worth replacing the whole thing. So hopefully that helps.